The night the Whitefang blizzard struck, every scratching gust against my wooden hut felt like claws dragging along bone. On Sorna 3, storms didn't simply bury you in snow, they tried to erase you. Wind howled like creatures older than memory, and ice shards rode the gale at speeds that could flay exposed skin. I was alone, or at least I thought I was. Humans rarely came this far north, not unless they were trapping snow beasts or avoiding people on purpose. I fell into the second category. After losing most of my survey team to a groundquake, solitude had become a quiet companion, one that didn't ask questions or offer pity. Outside, the blizzard roared again, rocking the hut. The fire sputtered, casting flickering amber light across the interior, over the hanging bundles of dried root, stacked tools, and the battered old rifle that hadn't been fired in months. I was preparing to reinforce the shutters when something slammed against the door, hard enough to knock snow from the rafters. I froze. Another impact. Then again, rhythmic, insistent. Someone was pounding on my door. You don't open doors on Sornith during a storm. You check your locks and hope the wind doesn't peel the boards away. But something about that knocking, desperate, weakening, made me grab my thermal coat instead of the rifle. I cracked the door open. A blast of frozen knives bit into my face, and shoved against it was a figure nearly collapsing into the snow. A woman, tall, copper-skinned, wrapped in torn glacial furs. Her hair, thick obsidian black, whipped wildly around horns that curled like polished stone. Blue bioluminescent markings flickered weakly along her cheeks. Her breath came out ragged and steaming through lips tinged purple with cold. She lifted her head, eyes glowing faint gold. "Shelter, please," she rasped. I didn't hesitate. I pulled her inside and slammed the door shut before the storm could steal the warmth again. She collapsed to her knees immediately, trembling. Frost clung to her eyelashes, and her hands, three-fingered, claw-tipped, were stiffened by cold. I quickly wrapped her in a thermal blanket and guided her toward the fire. "Easy," I said. "You're half frozen." She stared up at me, struggling to speak between chattering teeth. "Was tracking beast. Storm turned. Could not." She couldn't finish. The cold had cut her words into shivers. I stoked the fire, warming the air until it hummed with heat. I brewed the root tea, disgusting on the tongue, but it chased the chill from blood faster than any human remedy. She sniffed it cautiously before downing the mug in one gulp, wincing. "I am Tyrash Kavalan," she said after a moment, voice warming with her limbs. "Of the Valen clans." I nodded. "Elias Carter. Human. Of nowhere in particular." Her blue markings brightened slightly. "Interest, maybe amusement." "You are far from your people, Elias Carter." "So are you," I countered. She exhaled slowly, gaze casting to the storm-lashed window. "Yes. Fate decides paths we do not choose." Outside, thunder cracked. Lightning snaked horizontally, a strange quirk of Sornitha's magnetic poles. Tyrash flinched, not at the sound but at memory. Something darker than the storm lingered in her eyes. She wasn't just lost. She was running. I didn't press, not at first. But as the night stretched on, we spoke, sharing silence like firelight. Her clan, she explained, lived deep within the Rimefang caverns, hunters of the colossal storm tusks, beasts with hides like ironwood bark and tusks electrified from atmospheric charge. The blizzard had caught her while tracking one that her tribe believed carried the spirit of a deceased chieftain. It was a sacred hunt. "But I was not merely hunting," she admitted quietly. "I was being hunted." By what, she didn't say. But the shadows in her voice told enough. Hours passed. The storm raged on, but inside the hut warmth seeped back into her bones. She moved closer to the fire, shedding her outer layers. Underneath, her tunic revealed a deep jagged scar running from clavicle to abdomen, fresh, stitched with crystalline thread. A sign of combat. A sign of survival. I tended to her supplies, mostly ruined by frost, but one object caught my attention. A small crystal sphere wrapped in leather bindings, pulsing faint blue. Tyrash's hand snapped out instinctively, covering it. Her eyes flashed sharp gold. "Do not touch the Kaluman," she said, voice suddenly frigid. I raised my hands. "Sorry. Didn't mean. It is precious. Dangerous." She relaxed, but only slightly. "It carries memory. Soul. Destiny." I didn't understand, but I didn't have to. Night deepened. Silence stretched, broken only by crackling fire and the distant scream of the wind. I brewed more root and we traded stories. Mine of Earth's mountains and oceans, hers of caverns where glowing moss painted constellations across stone. "So your world," she asked at one point, "it is truly a death world? A world so dangerous that evolution itself sharpened your kind?" I shrugged. Earth wasn't trying to kill us, not always. But yeah, it was hostile enough to toughen us. Everything wanted to eat us, poison us, or evolve faster than us. Tyrash regarded me, truly studying me now. Then the legends were not wrong. A chill ran down my spine. Legends? What legends? She didn't answer, not directly. Instead, she leaned forward, eyes narrowing as though measuring the distance between myth and reality. "In the oldest songs," she whispered, "our ancestors spoke of beings who thrived in the most brutal worlds. Beings who endured pain like stone endures winter. They called them the sky's old children, survivors of trials no other species could withstand." Her gaze pierced mine. "And when I saw you, Elias Carter, alone in this frozen wasteland, unbroken, I wondered if those legends had roots in humankind." I laughed it off at first, but the way she looked at me, like I was something out of her grandmother's bedtime stories, felt unsettling. The storm battered the hut again, rattling the shutters. Snow crept under the door frame. I stood to reinforce it, when Tyrash suddenly stiffened. Her markings dimmed. Her breathing stopped. "What is it?" I whispered. She rose silently, moving to the window. The blizzard cloaked everything, but somewhere within that blinding white, shapes slumbered. Massive shapes, with tusks longer than a spear. Storm tusks. But they weren't moving like a herd. They were searching. "No!" Tyrash breathed, horror creeping into her voice. "They followed me. Not beast riders." A distant horn blared, deep, resonant, ancient. A hunting cry. And suddenly I understood, the danger wasn't the blizzard. It was what hunted her. Tyrash turned to me, eyes blazing. "You must stay out of this, human. They seek vengeance for the scar on my chest. For their fallen chieftain. They would slaughter anyone who shelters me." I grabbed my coat and rifle. "Too late for that," I said. Her eyes widened, not in disbelief, but something like reluctant respect. "You would stand with me," she murmured, "against the stormborn riders?" I checked the rifle's chamber. Back on Earth we have a saying. You don't leave someone to die alone. Her jaw tightened, emotion flickering across her features. Perhaps humans are deathworlders after all. I kicked open the door. Wind shrieked. Ice lashed our faces. But together we faced the storm. Figures emerged from the blizzard, towering riders draped in white furs atop armored beasts. Their eyes glowed like coals. Their weapons, electro-tipped spears, crackled with deadly charge. Their leader raised his spear. "Tyrash Kavalan," he bellowed. "Return the Kaluman, or your blood will freeze upon the ice." Tyrash stepped forward, not hiding, not trembling, her hand gripping the sphere. "I will not," she shouted. "The spirit chose me, and I choose to live." The riders roared. Lightning flashed. They charged. I raised my rifle and fired, each shot crackling through the biting air, the weapon kicking hard against my shoulder. A tusk beast faltered, stumbled. Tyrash unleashed a war cry that shook frost from the roof, drawing two blades from hidden sheaths, electricity crackling along their edges. We fought side by side, human resilience and alien ferocity. Spears clashed with steel. Snow stung our eyes. The world became motion, pain, survival. I moved on instinct, ducking, striking, pushing through exhaustion. Tyrash fought with graceful brutality, every strike a storm within a storm. When the final rider fell, silence reclaimed the blizzard. Not peace, but awe. Tyrash stood breathing hard, her scars glowing faintly. I wiped blood, mine and theirs, from my gloves. "You fought," she said softly, "even when hope was ice in our veins." "Humans are stubborn," I replied. She stepped closer, eyes reflecting the firelight from the hut behind us. "And loyal. The legends were true." "What legends?" I asked again. This time she answered, "That humans do not merely survive death worlds, they become them." I didn't know what to say, but as she lifted the Kaluman and its light pulsed between us, I sensed something ancient and vast awakening. A story beginning, not ending. The storm quieted at dawn. The world around us glowed blue with sunrise. Tyrash faced the horizon, the wind lifting her hair. "Elias Carter," she said, voice full of certainty. "The Valen clans will ask for the name of the human who stood with me." I shrugged. "Just tell them I was someone who did the right thing." She gave me the smallest, fiercest smile. "Then I will tell them you were human. That will be enough." And in her tone, I heard something impossible. Respect. Because on a frozen world where only the strongest survived, I had stood my ground.